Welcome back to Market on Close. I'm Marley Caden here in Chicago alongside Sam Vadas at the New York Stock Exchange. It's time now for Overlooked Stocks. We'll be looking at Webtoon. Shares rallying 40% on the day on the news that Disney is taking a 2% equity stake in the company. With more, let's send it over to Sam in New York.
Thanks very much for that, Marley. I'm joined now by George Tsilis, Senior Markets Correspondent. Talk to us about this and the market reaction we've seen today for Webtoon, George.
Well, I mean, first off, the market reaction, Sam, for Webtoon is quite impressive today. It was actually trading around $29 in the pre-market. It has been drifting back to the upside as we move into the close, but pretty interesting company, I suggest, when it comes to the technologies and also some of the news associated with it. But for those that don't know, and I didn't know this earlier as well, it's a Los Angeles-based digital global storytelling company. They basically have a digital comic platform, including digital novels, and they have an IP or intellectual property that is very unique to them for a vertical scroll format. So it's actually one way to display digital comics and novels. And the news today is quite impressive, associated with the multi-year agreement with Disney to basically bring forth Disney's comics on their platform. This is about 35,000 different comics, including Star Wars, Marvel, if you will, just to name a few of the brands that are essentially going to be on the platform. But the other thing is 20th Century Studios, which is owned by Disney as well, will be displayed on this platform. And the other thing is that Disney is actually taking a small equity stake of about 2% in Webtoon as well. And I think that the news today associated with the multi-year agreement, but also the equity stake, was certainly a major catalyst for this name, which, for all intents and purposes, is really a small cap company with a market cap at around $1.9 billion. In overall sales, which have been growing based on last quarter's numbers, 19% year over year. Sales right now of around $1.4 billion, with the stock trading at basically less than, or slightly more than, 1x forward sales. I think there's a value element to this name, but also certainly a credible growth catalyst associated with Disney, as we know, as a premier global media and cartoon brand.
Yeah, and I see that it's actually owned by South Korea's internet giant Naver as well, for any of those who are interested, I believe. I'm just wondering about the significance of this. I've been trying to sort of look at the details of this partnership and, why it's so important. And you mentioned some of the aspects like the, audience expansion, accessibility. I'm just seeing that Webtoon has about 155 million monthly active users, and they're primarily Gen Z and millennials who prefer the vertical sort of scrolling. I'm just wondering, how important that is to this partnership for Disney with, obviously, some of the franchises that it has under its umbrella.
Well, I think clearly today the benefactor is Webtoon, just because of the small base company that it is. I think Disney now has a larger distribution stream of its core comics and potentially its novels. This is going to be good for Disney. I think if you think about the nature of the deal and even the price reaction today, Webtoon seems to be benefiting the most from this, because this is a huge revenue driver potentially for the company. It also increases brand visibility, as well as essentially further advertising partnership streams along with Disney. So this was obviously a big deal for Webtoon. But one of the things that's important as well is, not necessarily top line sales growth, but the function of price action as well as earnings growth. And if you look at Webtoon, today was a big move, but it actually had a quite large move as well not too long ago on the 11th of August, where the company actually reported an adjusted profit, which was a surprise of 7 cents versus a 6-cent estimated loss. So the company basically had an inflection point quarter. That was in early August, where they were taking losses and moved to profitability. And I did look at the profitability profile as of right now. It's growing in 2026, 2 consecutive 4 quarters of profit. And I think this is more visibility for investors as well as analysts, because if you look at some of the names like JP Morgan, as well as Deutsche Bank increased their target to $25, and even JP Morgan started rating on the stock as well with a buy and a $22 target as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm just wondering, what it means as far as the valuation is concerned here for Webtoon, because, it's already got the backing of that, internet conglomerate over in South Korea, and now it's sort of entered into Hollywood effectively. So how should one be looking at that as far as investors are concerned with the valuation?
Well, I think, valuation-wise, one of the things that I just mentioned is the profitability growth. That's extremely important, especially when you're dealing with a business like this, which did IPO back in June 2024. So it doesn't have a long-standing history as a publicly traded company. I think the deal itself provides more credibility and visibility to Webtoon alongside Disney. But the trajectory of earnings is really powerful when it comes to the price action of stocks, all stocks. I'm not suggesting here for Webtoon alone. But, when you look at companies that are making losses and there's near inflection point of break even, that typically is where you see the preceding aspects of huge price moves. So that occurred back in August. And then now we're seeing a complementary additive event with the Disney partnership, which is going to be adding to top line sales going forward, which again is going to shift the earnings profile for Webtoon. And that's what I think is happening price wise, reactionary wise, but also why the analysts now are upgrading the stock today as a result of this news, because they see more visibility in Webtoon's earnings profile. And lastly, I'll say this, for a small cap company, market cap around $1.9 billion, roughly speaking, cash position is relatively robust at around $590 million. So for what it's worth, that's a significant cash position relative to equity. So that gives you an idea that they have the ability to finance the net income or GAAP losses, because they're still making about $100 million in losses on about $1.4 billion in sales, getting closer towards GAAP profitability. But that cash position allows them more flexibility to mitigate that cash burn.
Okay, a good look at Webtoon and that 2% stake from Disney. Thank you so much for getting us across that one, George, today. George Tsilis, Senior Markets Correspondent.